Adding to its true crime library, Netflix released Dahmer-Monster, the Jeffrey Dahmer story on September 21st, 2022. With 10 episodes and 196.2 million watched hours in its first week, the series has sparked quite a controversy. First-time watchers expressed their outrage over the system, and victims based Netflix for making them relive their traumas. But there's one question that lingers on everyone's mind. Did Netflix do right by the story, or did they blow everything out of proportion? Well, let's find out. Dahmer did not wear glasses. Let's start off with the most glaring thing Netflix got wrong. When the Milwaukee cannibal was finally caught and put on his sanity trial, he did not wear his trademark aviator glasses. And no, it was not a fashion statement. In an interview with Inside Edition, the notorious serial killer revealed that he was, in fact, uncomfortable looking anyone in the face. He did not want to see anyone's face clearly, and so he decided to simply not wear his glasses. According to Jeffrey, it helped him disassociate himself from what was happening. It almost seems like an easy way out for the man responsible for so much pain and suffering. The smell of flesh. Let's get another thing out of the way. That smell stenching up the entire building was not of rotting human flesh, but of the chemicals Dahmer was using to carry out his sinister plans. Don't believe us? Well, you better believe Annie E. Schwartz, the former crime reporter, who basically wrote the book on Dahmer's killings, and we mean that quite literally. In an interview with The Guardian, the Milwaukee reporter touched on quite a few topics, and one happened to be the truth about the smell that the building's tenants were complaining about. Oh, and according to some reports, the tenants weren't complaining about rotting flesh. They just thought the apartment reeked of the smell of urine and labeled Jeffrey as unhygienic. If only that were the case. Lionel Dahmer didn't teach his son dissection. Surprisingly, the series spends a good amount of time delving into Jeffrey's relationship with his father, Lionel Dahmer. Maybe Netflix wanted to pin Jeffrey's serial killer nature on daddy issues. They showed a young Jeffrey easily becoming infatuated with dissecting roadkill, which, believe it or not, was something encouraged by his very own father. In fact, Mr. Dahmer went as far as to teach him exactly how to do it. The reports have been confirmed by Lionel himself in his book, A Father's Story. He admitted to teaching his son about preserving animal bones. Apparently, Dahmer had a thing for chemistry and biology. And with Lionel having a PhD in chemistry, it worked kind of well. However, Lionel did point out one thing. He did not in any way teach his son how to dissect roadkill or dissect one with him in the first place. Looks like Netflix pulled out a good old exaggerate the story to boost viewing numbers from its book for this one. Wouldn't be the first time, that's for sure. Or maybe Lionel's lying to save face. He would certainly face a lot of backlash if it came out to be true. Guess we'll never know. Lionel did seem to have a soft spot for his son even after everything he did because he asked for a judge to intervene. This was after Dahmer was convicted of sexually assaulting the brother of one of his future victims. He apparently wrote a letter to Judge William Gardner in 1990 about how he still loved his son and for whom he wanted a better life. Glenda Cleveland wasn't neighbors with Dahmer. Played by Niecy Nash, Glenda Cleveland plays a monumental role in Dahmer's arrest, both in real life and in the fictional series. Glenda is the one to notice Dahmer's suspicious activities and reports them to the police, which ultimately leads to the serial killer's arrest. But the Netflix adaptation didn't get it all right. In the series, Cleveland is shown to live in the same building as Dahmer, but in real life, Cleveland lived in the building next to Dahmer, and these two never met. Now, she may not have been in the same building, but she still caught sight of Dahmer's weird activities from time to time, and each time she made sure to alert the police. If you happen to watch the series, you'll remember that it was Glenda's daughter and niece, Sandra Smith and Nicole Childress, who saw 14-year-old Conorak, Cynthia Somphone, trying to escape his killer in an alley near Dahmer's apartment on May 27, 1991. They ended up informing the police, but that proved to be almost useless, with Dahmer making up the excuse that Conorak was his younger 19-year-old drunk boyfriend. The police thought all was good and sealed Conorak's fate. Maybe Netflix didn't have the budget to construct a whole other building, and so they decided to take the easy way out. They forgot Pamela Bass. Now, Glenda Cleveland may not have been Jeffrey's neighbor, but Pamela Bass was, and Netflix forgot to include her in the series. Now, unlike Glenda, Pamela didn't think there was anything suspicious about the Milwaukee cannibal. Instead, she was quite fond of him. She went on record to describe Jeffrey as friendly and sharing. Now, that's one truth we can't stomach, but apparently that was the case. For some odd reason, Jeffrey seemed to care for Pamela, even bringing her sandwiches at times. And surprisingly, she never noticed anything out of the ordinary, not even the smell. In Bass's opinion, Jeffrey came off as a nerd in the sense that he would keep to himself and do weird things. Now, how would you react when you find out that your sweet next-door neighbor bringing you those was actually a serial killer? Well, first of all, you're going to be creeped out, and then, when you've calmed down, you're going to question the sandwiches. Poor Pamela went through something like that. Once she found out what was happening on the other side of the wall, she was afraid that Dahmer might have fed her human flesh. "I've probably eaten somebody's body parts," Bass said in the Jeffrey Dahmer files. Probably. Dahmer didn't steal from the Milwaukee Blood Plasma Center. Now, while we're on the topic of questionable eating choices, let's talk about how in the series Dahmer was seen drinking blood. Apparently in episode 4, he got a job at the Milwaukee Blood Plasma Center as a phlebotomist and decided to bring home a bag of blood to drink. Now, you may think that's not uncharacteristic of this notorious cannibal, but believe it or not, Dahmer didn't steal from the center. According to real-life reports, Dahmer tried to drink a vial of blood on the roof of the center. But it wasn't a pleasant experience as he ended up spitting it out. Looks like this one was all Netflix. Got to get them those viewer numbers now, don't you? The officers were never awarded. There's a lot to be mad about in the series. However, one blood-boiling moment that everyone can agree on is the moment Officer John Balzarak and Joseph Gaberish ignore a distraught Sita Somphone and believe Jeffrey's words. When Cleveland saw the disoriented 14-year-old stumbling in the alley and alerted the authorities, it was these two officers who made it to the scene. However, they showed little to no competence. They chose to ignore the voices of the black community and the state of one helpless black child. Still, toward the end of the series, the two officers are seen receiving awards for Officers of the Year. Except the truth is, that never happened. The two officers were never awarded. In fact, according to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, both officers and a third, Rick Porobukin, were suspended when their negligence came to light. Gaberish and Balzarak were fired, but a judge ended up reinstating them in 1994. The truth about Ron Flowers. In the series, Ron Flowers is shown as the one man who was lucky enough to walk into the lion's den and walk back out unscathed, and it was all thanks to Dahmer's grandmother. She happened to be staying with Dahmer when he brought Ronald home under the pretense of having him help out with the jumping of his car battery. This was when Dahmer offered Flowers alcohol, but he rejected it, so Dahmer switched to coffee. Now, he may have been able to drug Flowers, but he never got around to carrying out his sinister plans. As we saw, the serial killer's grandmother never let a drugged Flowers out of her sight. In fact, she even helped Jeffrey take him to a bus. Call it fate, divine intervention, but Flower walked away unscathed and instead woke up in a hospital safe and sound. Now, that's all fine and dandy, but there's no indication that's how things actually went down. In the book by Schwartz, the former crime reporter Dahmer revealed that the real reason Flowers was able to escape with his life wasn't because of his grandma, but because Flower weighed about 250 pounds, and that was not the kind of heavy lifting Dahmer wanted to deal with. In the documentary, Jeffrey Dahmer, Mind of a Monster, Flowers detailed that there was evidence of Jeffrey sexually assaulting him, which is something Netflix left out. Not like the story wasn't dark enough already. Cult 219 is real. Now, this may come off as shocking, but Club 219 is real. You'd think that Netflix would be the one behind this one, but that's not true. As reclusive as you'd expect Jeffrey to be, he did go out to the club and pick up multiple victims. Club 219 is a real gay bar in Milwaukee. In fact, as per the Wisconsin LGBT History Project, the club opened in February of 1981 and was hailed as one of the best spots in the area. Unfortunately, if you had plans about visiting the club to catch some remnants of the serial killer that frequented it, you might want to abandon them. The club is closed today. The club was already struggling when more bars opened up in the area. The nail in the coffin was the Jeffrey revelation. He did show his victims the Exorcist 3 movie. Again, this isn't Netflix. Dahmer did indeed show his victims Exorcist 3 when he brought them back to the apartment. He admitted in a prison interview that he played the movie. Why do you ask? Well, apparently, it got him in the mood. The truth about Tony Hughes. Episode 6 of the series follows Dahmer courting a 31-year-old deaf man, Tony Hughes, his next victim, in 1991 in Milwaukee. He succeeds in bringing him home, but when the time comes for Tony to leave his apartment of work, Dahmer drops the act of caring lover and brings out the hammer. He bludgeons Hughes off camera with Netflix, even implying some sexual experiments with his corpse. However, in reality, Dahmer knew Hughes as early as 1989, and as per his confession, he had never met Hughes until the night before his murder. But Tony's friend tells a different story. According to him, Dahmer had come looking for Hughes several times over the years. Dahmer did say the "I want to hear your heart" line. Again, nope, not Netflix. During his testimony, Tracy Edwards confirmed that Dahmer said the line, "I want to hear your heart because I'm going to eat it," much to everyone's horror. However, before Dahmer could carry out his evil plans, Tracy was able to escape with his life. All in all, Netflix seems to be walking a thin line between telling a true recount of what happened and exaggerating things to up its viewing numbers. And that's all for today's video. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel The Focus for more movie-related news. Until then, we'll see you next time.